With Cameroon's national elections set for Sunday, the 12th of October, tensions have been rising in the country's English-speaking regions. On the 1st of October, the self-proclaimed Federal Republic of Ambazonia marked its Independence Day, with Vice-President Dabney Yerima declaring that no French Cameroon elections will take place on Ambazonian soil. He says that once those elections are concluded, Ambazonia will seek dialogue with Yaoundé as equals and on neutral ground. But what does this mean for the peace process, and how united are English-speaking Cameroonians behind the Ambazonian cause? Well, to discuss this and reflect on the significance of Ambazonia's Independence Day ahead of Cameroon's elections, I spoke to Mr. Dabney Yerima, Vice President of Ambazonia, and I asked him what October the 1st meant.
1st October is our Independence Day because on the 25th of April 1961, the UN granted our independence, which was supposed to go in effect on the 1st of October 1961. But France, the United Kingdom, and the UN, they tricked us into getting independence by joining, which has never happened in the world before. So the option was to join Nigeria or to join French Cameroon. But with our experience in the House of Assembly in Enugu in 1958, when we were being administered by the British, our people chose to join French Cameroon as two states of equal status in a federation. So 1st of October to us is our Independence Day. It's that day that gives us that identity as the Ambazonian people. And it's that day that makes us proud as a people. And I believe that if you saw how our people celebrated this year, it was just wonderful across our territory and also in the diaspora.
You've said that this year's celebrations, this year's commemoration comes at a turning point. What do you mean by that?
It came at a turning point because there are elections that are supposed to take place in the neighboring country closest to us, which is French Cameroon, on the 12th of October this year. So it's on this Sunday. And it's a historic election for that country because even citizens of that country for almost a year now don't even know whether the president exists, whether he's alive, who is ruling the country. And they prepared this election. But what we know and understand is elections like this in French Cameroon, the results are always pre-written. So there is no need for an election in that country because how hard the opposition will work. And after the launch, we saw lots and lots of fights with people who wanted to contest as president, like Kamto, with the Electoral Commission. He was refused to participate because they looked at him as the strongest opposition party leader. So there were issues of that nature, but Kamto later on gave in to the regime, and he's not participating in the elections. So we've seen other candidates who have emerged. I believe that the regime in power thought that they have the opportunity to maybe accept candidates that they can control, that maybe when Paul Biya rigs the election and is declared president, they are going to succumb or sell the trust of the people for a ministerial position or for any position within the government. So that is why this is a historic, our independence, this is an historic moment that we celebrated our independence because we know that Paul Biya is incompetent to run that country. Paul Biya even was not nominated by members of his party to be their presidential candidate. He just imposed himself as a candidate for life in that party. And you can see some of the militants are going around and campaigning and saying he's their candidate for life. But I believe that it is the Bulu and Beti and Ewondo clan, mafia, that is making sure that he stays in power so that they can continue to run the country, from the background.
You've said that no French Cameroon elections will take place on Ambazonian soil. What does that actually mean practically? Are you going to prevent people from voting if they want to? Or is everyone in Ambazonia not wanting to participate? What do you mean?
I think there are surveys that have been carried out in our territory that people have said they want back their statehood. And our president, Siseko Ayub Tabe, who is serving a life sentence now in the prisons in Kondengi, restored our independence. And our people came out and restored that independence. But what they were met with is helicopter gunshots, from the regime in Yaoundé. And that has resulted to a war of 8 years that is ongoing today, and a genocide that is ongoing in our territory. We continue to insist that there will be no elections in our territory. And if you had covered our territory for the last 1 month, there was civil disobedience. And our people showed patriotism. They showed the world that they have total control of that territory. Even when the elections were launched in Yaoundé, majority of our people did not register to participate in the elections. So they have shown the world we have total control of our territory, and the narrative of one and indivisible Cameroon doesn't hold. Because some presidential candidates like Issa Chiroma, who went to our territory to campaign, he said he had to ask for permission to go into our territory. And he admitted that there is a problem. He was a communication minister of Paul Biya, and he was the one who said there is no problem. As a presidential candidate, he now is the apologetic one who went to our territory and told our people, I asked for permission to come in here, and I'm sorry for what I said, because I was under pressure to say what I said. So even if I've had meetings with parliamentarians or senators in Yaoundé who have categorically said, for the past 8 to 10 years, no elections have taken place in our territory. So Paul Biya always rigs. The results are always pre-written. But this is different because for 1 month now, there have been civil disobedience in our territory, and our people have respected it and told the world that it is time the world listens to the people of Ambazonia, because they have control over their territory. And if any election takes place in Ambazonia, it will be through invasion, because they will be coming in with their tanks and military hardwares to protect those elites who continue to act as slaves for the regime in Yaoundé. So they'll come. But I mean, voting for a country is your civic duty, and it should not be done with military hardware. But if you see any election that takes place in our territory, you'll find lots and lots of armored cars, military. The territory is already heavily militarized with military, with their gears ready for anything. So that is no elections. You are just imposing your will on the will of the people.
You've raised something quite interesting. And I suppose for some of us on the outside looking in, we often reduce this whole story to Francophone and Anglophone Cameroon. Is it that simple? Are all English-speaking people on one side and French-speaking people on the other?
I will say here that The English-speaking people, most of them, majority, are on the one side. There are certain elites who are working as the slave boys of French Cameroon. And if you could, if you want, I could send you some of their videos that they've put out there in social media, asking even chiefs, even some of our funds, that they've been rendered to nothing because now they've been politicized. And those ones, they have no choice because they are depending on the regime in Yaoundé for their livelihood. And they will tell you that is just my reason being there. It's just for my livelihood that I'm on that side. But majority are determined. And to be on their own, which is Ambazonia, because we have nothing to do. If we are talking to them, we should be talking as equals. We are not talking as a subject to French Cameroon. So our people have made that choice. It's not only today that this started. It's even started since the 60s. And it got amplified in the 80s when SCNC was formed. And then in 2017, the whole, our revolution, the trajectory of our revolution changed to what it is right now. So our people are on our side, they are on their side. And if you have listened to some of their politicians, they've called us 2 cubes of sugars, they've called us dogs, and some have even asked the president to to organize a state of emergency and kill all our liberation volunteers who are fighting to protect our homeland. So we are on our side, but they are imposing the one and indivisible narrative, which is not true. And Paul Biya, during his interview with Mo Ibrahim in Paris, said, we have been trying, we have been trying to assimilate them, but we are not the same people. We have different identity. So we are on our side and they are on their side. And that is why we've said we have nothing to do with their elections that are ongoing. And we will not participate in their elections. Whoever wins, whatever the outcome, we are ready to engage them, not as subjects, but as equals. And we are ready to engage them on a negotiation table, and we're going to look into the root causes of the problems.
Talking about negotiation and engaging, how far are we in terms of peace in Cameroon between Anglophone and Francophone Cameroon and Ambazonia and Cameroon, actually? Is peace a long distance away, or has there been progress over time? Because what we've seen more and more is displacement, and the people in the southern Cameroons struggling.
I think peace is very close, but the problem is the willingness of the Yaoundé regime to be able to come to the table and dialogue with Ambazonia. Well, we were very close in Canada. I think the world knew about the Canadian peace talks a couple of years back. We were very close. The 3 agreements were signed between French Cameroon and Ambazonia, and we agreed on a communication protocol, which was that the government of Canada will come out first to talk about the progress of the pre-talks. But the issue in that pre-talks was the issue of identity. The Cameroonian government was coming into that, to treat the pre-talks as Group A and Group B. We are not B or A, we are a people, and we have an identity. And in that pre-talks, we emphasized, and they agreed, that they will call us the former trust territory of British Southern Cameroons. That was the agreement. It was signed. The Canadian government has those documents. And when we agreed on this communication protocol, it was that Canada was supposed to come out to talk about the success of the pre-talks, then the Vatican, and, and then with other international bodies. When Canada came out, the Vatican also came out. But Canada said there was a mistake in their communique. That was peace talk has gone successfully between French Cameroon and Ndoro, which are called the Anglophone regions. So we told them we cannot come out until they correct that mistake, because we have a document that they signed with our identity, the former British Trust Territory of Southern Cameroon. So they used their ambassador in the UN to correct that. And when the ambassador corrected it, we came out and told the world that that had happened in Canada. It was a turn for French Cameroon to come out. It was difficult for them to come because, one, we have an identity which they don't accept that identity. But that is who we are. And it was just one back and forth with the Prime Minister that the president has to give them a permit for them to come out. Can you imagine this? And it took months. We were putting Canada under pressure. What is going on? And they kept telling us they are waiting for the president's approval for Cameroon to come out. But when that approval was given, Emmanuel Sadi, the communication minister of French Cameroon, came out and said they didn't know about any meeting. And this is who? Who are the people who are behind this? Ferdinand Gongo and the Bulu Beti clan that are ruling the country right now indirectly. So they came out, they didn't know about it. The Prime Minister was so frustrated, and in his frustration, he's still frustrated until today about that. But Canada is willing to go forward. There are other initiatives at the background that they've reached out to us, but what has caused the stalemate and is still causing it is French Cameroon's willingness to come to the negotiation table with Ambazonia. But we are ready at any time. And after the elections, whoever wins, we're ready to engage them.
There are some critics that say that Ambazonian armed groups have at times targeted civilians and deliberately disrupted schooling. How do you respond to that?
There is one thing they have to understand. We are people who are one of the most educated people in Africa, and we know the importance of education. We have never said that our children should not go to school. Our message has been a message of security, that parents should make sure that should they send their children to school, they must be able to study in a secured environment. That is our position. And it has never changed for 8 years now. So there are incidents where people will say, oh, our liberation volunteers stop children from going to school. I want to make it very clear here. There are other militias within our territory sponsored by members in the government of French Cameroon, like Atanganji, who is the Territorial Affairs Minister. They have committed murder in schools. They have killed a lot of innocent people in our territory, and we have all the records. Some of these militias have been arrested by our liberation volunteers. So we keep on telling the world that they should send a fact-finding mission on our territory, because most of the actions that are being committed there, or the crimes against humanity that are being committed there, are being committed by militias sponsored by members of the government in French Cameroon. And our people can testify to that. Yes, you cannot deny some excesses on our part, because as leaders in the front line, we have to educate our liberation volunteers about international humanitarian law. And that is what we are doing. And that is why today you see They were talking about kidnapping for ransom in our territory. It has been almost eradicated. And our liberation volunteers now they've gone, they are now mature, they are more experienced, and they are not doing things as usual. So they are carrying out surgical operations against the invading military of French Cameroon. So that narrative is coming from French Cameroon, that our liberation volunteers are fighting against our people. That is not what it is.
As we start to come to the end of our conversation, I am curious. You talk about engagement with Yaoundé after the elections. Has there been any engagement in the interim, and with who? As we know, President Biya is missing in action. Who do you engage with when you engage with Yaoundé? In other words, maybe who's running the country?
Well, they are political aspirants who are hoping to be president. They've come out with their manifesto on how best they can solve the problems in our territory. We are not, we look at this manifesto from the different candidates. I think the most popular right now is Issa Chiroma, that the regime is so afraid of. He was communication minister of Paul Biya. He's had many portfolios in Paul Biya's government, and he understands the in and out of of that regime because he's been in very, very critical positions there. We have looked into their programs and what they are saying. One thing why I cited him was I think he is the only one who has even stood up as a statesman to apologize to the Ambazonian people and said, what I did was wrong because I was under pressure. I've hurt you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. We accept that. But when we look at his program, we think that he's very short of many things. So we believe that there's the willingness to dialogue, and in course of the process, we'll be able to talk. He says we have to look into the root causes of all the, of the problem. We are willing to go into the root causes, and the decisions of the table should be what will determine the structure of both countries.
Vice
There are
President.
some others, there are some others who are trying to reach to us to try to talk about the future of the state, but our position is clear. We are ready to go to the negotiation table in a neutral ground with international observers who have the muzzle to implement whatever decision that comes out of the table. So we are not interested in fake promises or political positions in that country. We want our homeland to be free.
Vice-President Yerima, we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you very, very much indeed for joining us. And we wish you, the people of Ambazonia and Cameroon, a peaceful resolution for both of your futures.
Thank you, Peter, for having me.